this talk can reach far more people than what we have here. So we are now being recorded, and I would like to thank you again, José Alexandre and Celine Bellard, for this opportunity to be here talking about productivity. This activity is
I think Murilo caiu.
Ok.
Sim. Fala para ele no WhatsApp.
here I am again.
Okay.
Sorry. If this happens, it's a nice way to start. If this kind of stuff happens, please just wait a little bit so that I can enter again, or our participants enter again. No worries. If we don't leave this team group, the call will not end over. So, starting again, thank you everyone for being here. I would like to present you, first of all, José Alexandre and Celine Bellard. I will start by Celine Bellard, who is a scientist from the CNRS, which is a big research institute in France. It's one of the most important research institute in France, if not the most. She is also mother of a small child. She has many published papers and many citations per year. She's also, besides doing research in macroecology, she's also the senior editor of the journal Diversity and Distribution, and has a lot of attributions like senior editor. And she also has a lot of citations and within her CV. José Alexandre Diniz-Filho is also a researcher from the Federal University of Goiás. He's professor and researcher for maybe 30 years, José Alexandre, or so, yeah. He's also author of more than 4,000 papers in ecology, in macroecology, and evolution. He also has many citations per year, and he's a member of the Brazilian Academy of Science, and one of the main researchers, leaders in macroecology here in Brazil. So it's a great pleasure for me to have you both here. And besides both, I was thinking to introduce people and to invite people to this talk with different research profiles. As you can see, Celine Bellard is early career, and she's starting, she has at least 10 years as a researcher. And José Alexandre is a different moment in his career, but both are very productive persons in ecology. Just to know, they both have the same number of citations per year according to Google citations. So it would be great to have both of their feelings about productivity. I would like to start this conversation giving the word for Celine to introduce herself if she wanted, and say something before I can pass for my first question. Celine, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for this kind presentation. So I started my PhD in 2010. So I did a 3 years PhD in France, working on the impact of climate change on biodiversity. And then I went for a postdoc fellowship in the UK at the University College of London. Then I continued to work also on climate change, but mostly focusing on invasive species and working at the University of Sapienza. Then I came back to Paris at the Museum of Natural History when I did a postdoc. And after that, I started to got a position at the CNRS in 2018. And basically, I work so in macroecology on the conservation aspect of diversity, trying to understand what are the main threats, could be the response of biodiversity, the scenario, and we all emphasize about the island vulnerability to invasive species and climate change. I think that's it. This should cover a little bit all stuff.
Thank you, Celine. José, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Murilo. It's a pleasure to be here with you and Celine. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And everyone. This is a course, right, Murilo, in the University of Brasilia, right? Murilo left again. Anyway, are you listening, everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Murilo will be back in a minute, but he already know me anyway. So, well, I did my doctoral now, my PhD, long time ago, as Murilo said, in 1995, and I worked mainly at that time with multivariate morphometrics and population genetics of honeybees. I worked with the invasion process of honeybees in South America, Africanized honeybees. And then I came to Guyana in 1995, started as a professor here. And since then, I've been working with many issues related to macroecology, and mainly with the applications of statistical and computational methods in macroecology, mainly related to comparative analysis, comparative phylogenetic analysis, and the spatial analysis. That's how we started in macroecology, by applying these methods. Then we met many people and start to work in a broader sense. But our main focus was in application of statistical methods for spatial and phylogenetic autocorrelation, right? And that's it. Here I am. Murilo is having many issues in.
Yeah, it seems so.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the questions that he asked us also was what if we think that we are a productive scientist.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Okay, so I really don't know about that. I don't know what is a productive scientist or a successful one. I would say, of course, there is a article metrics that matters. It's true, but it's not the only thing that matters, even if at the early career stage, this is quite important for the evaluation and assessment of the CV. But I would say that also a productive scientist is also a scientist that is able to collaborate with people, a scientist that is able to spread the science. So also for me, at least, it's also to be able to talk to the media about the results that we have, and to also be able to supervise students and share the passion for the research and for science. So I think maybe productive is not the right word, but I understand why it's used, because of course the assessment of scientists is mostly relying on some publication metrics. But
yeah,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Celine. We have all these discussions about the metrics now, and well, this have been forever actually. All the the publication metrics and impact factors, and now, and we have Celine in Brazil, a very new system of evaluation in our graduate programs here, and we are rediscussing all these metrics and have all this discussion again, because we have different areas and we have a central agency that regulates the graduate programs, the CAPES, that the people in Brazil all know. It's an agent of the Ministry of Education that is responsible for ruling and evaluating and supporting, giving money to the graduate programs and the fellowships to the students. And we are now having a new discussion about how to measure or how to evaluate the graduate programs and the faculty that is working in each graduate program. And based on these metrics, we have the final grades of the programs that in turn will be converted into more fellowships and more money. And so we are now in this discussion about the predatory journals and how to rank, and all the discussion about the new European system for open access. And we have all the problems related to paying the ACPs, and all this discussion, that they are all correlated, right? And but I agree with you that being a productive scientist is hard to measure, but it involves more than a simple discussion about the metrics, right? We have all these other components that are becoming more and more important in terms of collaboration, of giving more public visibility to science, and to fight pseudoscience and negationism. And we have all this stuff very strong here in Brazil, at least in the last four years. It was a very, very important discussion for us, right?
I'm having some problems with my Teams. I would just ask people, especially.
He could have written the things that he wants to ask.
Oh yes, he sent us, but let me find here.
Here I am again.
Okay.
Jessica and Silvia, please, could you turn off your camera, please? I would just ask José, Alexandre and Celine to leave their camera on so that we can see them. And all the other participants, please turn off their cameras. Well, for this talk, I was preparing some questions to introduce the topics of productivity. I've seen you are already mentioning some topics about metrics and so on, but I was more interested in each of your own productivity methods. Let me just start by a question. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry. Do you think you, especially Celine and Alexandre, do you think you have to adapt more your techniques? Do you have some techniques to deal with time, for instance? How do you manage time and all the tasks you have to do?
Well, I think, Murilo, that I'm quite organized about this in terms of dividing and planning my time. It's not something conscient, right? I think I do this unconsciously, and but I try always have something planning. I'm always anxious about everything, so it's hard to manage the time, but I'm always thinking ahead, right? So, but it's not very formal, right? But I'm very organized in this sense. And one of my colleagues that Bini, which is a very famous limnologist here in Brazil, he said that I'm this way. I'm quite organized, and I can do many things in the same time, because I have 4 kids, right? So I have to manage all the time. And when I had my oldest son, that is now 30 years old, I was in the PhD, so I had to plan everything. So when he was born, I had collected all my data and everything. So I stayed home with him, writing the thesis, analyzing the data. And so my wife at that time could go and did her experiments, right? So we planned everything. So my friend Mauricio Dini say that I'm this way because of my oldest son that forced me to be very organized about time, right? But anyway, that's it. I'm always thinking about planning, and I'm organizing and establishing priorities. This is a very important thing, I think.
Cool. And you, Celine, do you think your child, since the born of your child, you are a more organized person in terms of time?
I don't know if I'm more organized, because I was also quite organized from the very beginning. But clearly, I'm able to define the priorities in a better way now that I have a child than before. But I think I'm a little bit like José, because I like to make to-do lists. I have like to-do list for the whole year, to-do list for the 3 or 4 months each month, and every week. I also have a note about all the things that I want to do. And clearly, to have that, it helps me quite a lot to identify what I have done also. So not to be desperate about the time just passing without doing nothing. And also it helps me to identify the priority of what I want to do first and what is important, and not to lose time with some other stuff that require a lot of time but are not really important in this way. And I think at least to have a child, it helps me for that. And maybe it helps me also to be less anxious in a way, because when I'm with my child, it's not that I don't care about work, but it's just, okay, this part is end, and now I'm starting another life about my child, spending all my time and focus on him. And I think it's better in this way, because I'm not thinking all along day and night about work.
Cool. It's a very important thing to separate time, working time and family time. Do you have this planning too, José Alexandre? Are you both have a time for work in which you do everything you need, and once this time is over, it's over?
No, I'm afraid not. My wife is quite workaholic. I think she's worse than me, so it's terrible. I don't think now it's when we have lives, they are more independent, but they are also workaholic too, so it's a bit confusing. But we always said that when they were younger, that we have to do this kind of stuff, so we have not lots of time to stay with them, so it's a high quality time, right? So we did in the past this kind of separation that Celine did, exactly that. It's a different moment, but now it's a mess, right? But it's a different phase, right?
And what about let's start by José. What about your planning time during a day? Do you have some blocks of time to dedicate to reading or to writing? How do you start your work in the morning?
Well, it's quite. I don't have this kind of organization that Celine mentioned, that doing a to-do list. I just wake up and start thinking about what I'm going to do this day. We have classes here. We have many classes. You know, it's a bit different here. We have many classes, and so I have to organize. And but it's not planned in this more formal way. It's just depend on what is happening and what is. I'm planning ahead, and so I know what I'm going to do next week. And okay, I have to organize, but it's a mind thing. It's not formal in a to-do list or something, right? I work better in the morning, I think, but I know that depends on different people have different activity periods, right? Because we have the small children and so on. So we wake up very early in the morning. So go to bed very early. So I'm not a night guy, right? But this depends on people I know. That's it, I think.
What about you, Celine? What do you start first in the morning?
Well, first I'm reading the email, which I think it's not a good habit, but and I'm trying not to spend too much time on it, because also my main activity period for my brain, it's in the morning. So I'm trying to write article and to code during the morning because I'm more sharp at this period of the day. And clearly after lunch, my brain is, I think all my resources is to digest, so I cannot really think. So in general, I like to put all the meetings just after lunch, because I think it's less important because I'm not able really to write, and so all the things that not require much of attention, I put them in the afternoon. And clearly morning it's for coding and writing, but I'm trying to avoid meeting during the morning, but sometimes you have to be flexible. So in principle, I try to ensure that, but clearly it could change. But apart from that, I don't think. But clearly I work by blocks. I think it's easier for me to do that, and I'm trying when I can to just close my email when I'm writing or coding, and I just open it. Maybe if it's 1 hour later, but it helps because all the notification is quite disturbing to be efficient.
Cool. And both of you mentioned the planning strategy. Actually, you said you have a planning strategy to say, this week I'm going to start by this, next week it will be the next step. But what are the details about this planning? Do you have, how do you set all those goals in the morning or during the week? Do you have a system for that, Celine?
Usually at the end of the week, I decide what I'm going to do for the next week. It helps me also to be more relaxed for the weekend because I know what I'm going to start on Monday and I don't have to think about it. So usually I do that, at the end of the week for the whole next week.
What about you, José?
No, I don't know. I think I'm a bit chaotic about this. I don't know. And I don't think that I am I'm not so organized like this in terms of planning. It's more intuitive, let's say.
But are you at the limit of working on on what is coming to you?
Yeah. It's more like this. It's more improvisation, right? And I'm trying to not work on Sundays just for, but trying to. But it depends, right? It depends. But it's not. This is not stressing, right? It's just a question of doing things. And because I'm very anxious, I'm always like to be ahead of the schedule, right? So everything that I have to schedule, for example, in my Google Google schedule, right? I always have 1 day or 2 days in advance so I can think. Because we have all this mix of different activities, I understand what Celine said, but I don't have, for example, a time for writing a paper. Okay, if I decide to write, or I have to write, or I have to revise a paper from a student or something, okay, I'm going to do this afternoon, and I do this, and I send him or her the manuscript back. But I do not have this planning in long advance. Depends on the interest, it depends on the urgency, right? So I'm quite adaptive in the sense, right? I think that I have a quite adaptive agenda, right? It's very flexible and depends on my interest in at that time in the urgency. And we have all this administration business because I'm coordinating the graduate program here, and we have all things that come from one day to the other. Oh, you have to do this and to send to main administration, and this kind of stuff. You have to do a report and send it back. So I need to have a flexible agenda, right?
Okay. And about agenda, what about softwares, applications, apps? Do you have many of those to control your activities, or which of those tools do you use to improve your productivity? José?
Well, I don't have. I just use Google Agenda, right? I try to do ones that I have an application here, but I don't know. Rafael Loyola showed me. I started using, but then I gave up. It was one as this wish list, or I don't know. I'm looking for him, but I don't use it. I do not use it.
What about you, Celine? What do you use? Could you please, Celine, turn on your camera so that we can see you?
I think it's on. No.
I cannot see you. I don't know why.
Okay. José, could you see me?
No, it's
okay.
black
Now
here.
it's off. Now it's on.
Not yet. I cannot see you.
Okay, that's weird. Do you want me to reconnect to the?
Oh,
to
no
Zoom?
worries. No worries. Do you have some apps that you use frequently?
Not really for the timing organization. In fact, I don't really use map for that. I just use paper and a pen. But I can use some, because like GitHub for managing the project, for the script and everything, that is really good. I can also use some have to organize my files for different projects. I think this is quite helpful for me. And also for the big collaborative project, for example, I have one that is with 15 researchers all over the world. So for that, I have created a website where we have all the information regarding the proposal, regarding where are the papers that we are working on. And so everything is on a single web page. So this helps me to, to be more efficient, I would say. But and one of the things that is quite useful recently is the AI for coding. When I'm stuck or I'm just trying to look for a package or for a special function, to use that as a first intention is quite useful for me.
Cool. So you are using intensively ChatGPT for coding.
Yeah, it's not ChatGPT, it's another one, but it's an AI. Yeah.
Cool. Let's see if we already have 42 participants and we have questions here. Please feel free to raise your hand or just to type something or say something and sign on me. You have a question. And Sylvia, I think, is going to ask something.
Yeah, I was just wondering what is the AI like helping code that Celine is using?
Yeah. Trying to find. I think it's. Could you hear me? I'm trying to find the name because it's on my. It's rtutor.ai. I'm going to share it on the chat if we have one. No, the chat is closed, but it's rtutor.ai.
All tutor?
Yeah,
R-tutor. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. I'll share with everyone later. And Yara, do you have a question?
Yes, I have two questions. I don't know if it's better to ask both of them now or just one and then I ask again.
Make one and then the next.
Okay. This one is quite simple. I'm just wondering, how many hours do you sleep at night?
That's a really important question.
7, something, 8. I don't know, more or less normal.
For me, I slept well, but now I sleep. Yeah, it's more difficult, but it's not because of the work. It's more because I have a young child, so it's difficult for him to sleep. But I slept well, actually. I think you just have yeah, you can just have to be organized and a little bit more efficient and less distracted but you can do amount of work and have a work balanced life and sleep your 7 hours needed per night.
Yara,
How old is your baby, Celine? How old is he?
2 years old.
2 years.
A bit more than 2 years old, yes.
Great.
I'll be in these dynamics in a few weeks. My
yeah.
first child will born in 1 month. So
that's
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you. Yara, do you have another question?
Yes. José was talking about anxiety, and I'm wondering, how do you deal with that, and how do you deal with mental health and about productivity? Like maybe when your mental health and your anxiety is really high, do you have I don't know, methods with that? Or yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
I can start if you want.
Sure.
Well, for me, the thing that helps it's to make the list about all the things that I need to do, because it helps me to prioritize and say, okay, this is not feasible, this I'm going to do next week, and after that just to relax and go with friends or my family, but just change atmosphere or go for holidays, or also to do some yoga. It helps me quite a lot just to to breathe and walk in the nature, and it's helped me just to not to be too focused about all the work that I have to do and all the stress that it could cause. But it's clear that this kind of work could be quite stressful, and it's normal to be stressed about it. I don't think anyone doing research is not stressed at some point, but you have to find what relaxes you, and once you identify that you are stressed, try to do this stuff that helps you to feel better. Also, one of the things that I like to do when I'm stressed, it's to go to a nice restaurant and to eat some good stuff. I'm French, so food is important for us, but so this is some of the things that I like.
Yeah, I think I agree with Celine. It's we have all this global crisis on anxiety, and mainly for not mainly, but for the graduate students are talking a lot about this stress and anxiety and all the issues. Of course, it's different for us that we already have a career, we already have a job, right? I know it's different, but we are. I always tell my students that the things is just going to be worse, right? It's not going to be easy. Okay, you have a job, but then you have many other problems to solve and many other functions that you do not have when you are in the PhD or during the masters, right? So we have to think about how to deal with this stress. And I always like to emphasize also that it's not stress in the negative sense, okay? Because I'm doing research and I'm writing, and I love to write, and I love to do everything in science and to read, and but it's demanding, right? It's not stressful. I think it's demanding, right? And so this matches with the idea of organization. So if you have your time organized, you have to try to find something to put you away from this demanding, and try to control this demanding. That's the challenge, I think. So I strongly, and I think that perhaps I'm wrong, but I think that the new generations, they do not have, for example, hobbies. My students do not have a hobby. They just want to work and to work and to work. That's great, but you must have a hobby, and you have to do something, as Celine said, that you go relax or to meet friends and to go to a bar or something. But you must have a hobby, or I don't know. It's I entirely agree that you have. It's it's a time management stuff, and a hobby is very, very useful, right? I think I handle the same way.
What's your hobby, José?
Well, I have something. I have a guitar here, right? Okay, it's right beside my desk. So from time to time, I just stop working and start playing the guitar here. And I'm doing all modeling stuff. It's not modeling, not mathematical modeling, ship modeling, warship modeling, and so this kind of stuff. So I'm dividing my time with this, with these things.
Cool. And do we have any other questions at the participants? If so, please go ahead. Jessica, please.
May I go?
Sure.
So nice to meet you both. It's good to have you here. And I wish to know, how many students do you orient today? How many do you think is the ideal number? And how many hours do you spend in each of them in a week, let's say?
Great question. Who wants to start? Celine?
Yeah, I can start. Actually, I don't have many students right now. I have 2 PhD students, which is good. But at some point of the year, when I have the master student and postdoc, it could be up to 6 or 7, which is, I think, quite a lot for me, because I like to take time to discuss with them and spend time, really, a lot of time with them. So I think 6 or 7, it's quite a lot for me. And for example, for my PhD students, I think I will meet them, I don't know, like twice a week for the time that they need. I don't really measure that. But we also discuss on Skype regularly, like every day. We discuss about little stuff that need to be solved. And also we are in a team where we have a lot of postdoc and PhD students. So it's good, because if I don't have time, my colleagues will try to address the issue. And if they don't have time, I'm trying to help them also with the supervision. So it's, I'm not alone. So it's a little bit more easy in this way to help PhD students or postdocs.
Yeah, I think it's more or less the same. I think this also depends on the phase you are in your career, and in the different types of university or different. In our case, right, Murilo, depends on where we are. For example, in Brazil, what happened, for example, to me is that when I came to Goiânia, that we just had a master level course, and we have just a few faculty. And so there were many students that were interested in doing the masters and then the PhD a bit later. So we supervised a lot of students. It was a more regional thing, right? We have a higher demand for supervision, and in this case, I think that what Celine said, it's very interesting, because we gradually started to create the research groups, right? So we have many students in the lab. We have 3 or 4 faculty in the same lab. Mauricio, Thiago, that Murilo knows, Angel, and Dini, and Paulo De Marco. And so we have a group, and we always said that we have a collaborative, it's something like a family of supervision. And when one of us was not there, the students was going to ask about other guys. So we have all this group supervising lots of students. But now I think I have 4 PhD students and 1 master student, right? And 2 or 3 postdocs. It's not a large group, myself, right? But we have a bit more in the lab. and this is shared, right? So there's this some kind of hierarchical stuff. So I always like to put the PhD students to help the undergrad students, for example, in the scientific. We have a very strong program, Celine, in Brazil for starting research in the undergraduate, right? And it's a very nice program. So we can integrate the graduate and the undergrad in the same program, and it's nice for them to have some, to acquire some experience in supervising students also. So in this kind of group work, it's easy. So one thing that I always like to do is to make everybody work more or less in the same project or in the same big project, and try to divide so they can help each other. So it's more effective and more interesting in terms of the results. I think that all my good experience in the sense of having many students is when they are all working in more or less in the same line, and so they are sharing their problems and they are helping each other. So it's nice.
And what about the priority of student projects? Do you prioritize their projects over your own projects? How do you deal with those? If you have 7 different projects, even though they are on the same topics, it's quite challenging to manage everyone. So do you feel the projects of your students are a priority of your own projects?
Yeah, for me at least, I feel that because there are early career researchers. The PhD is in France, it's 3 years. For postdoc, you have to to publish in less years. So clearly, I put the project of the PhD and postdoc before my own project. I don't know if this is good, but this is what I do, and I think I would feel a little bit guilty if I would push my own project before them.
Yeah, I think I agree. Yeah, more or less the same. I think that we have this. Well, my own projects are usually more theoretical, so it's more, let's say, intellectual stuff, and so I have to, or doing simulations or something like this. So it's, I think I divided quite well. I always try to, for example, to give a very fast feedback for students. For example, when they write the first version of the manuscript, I always try to prioritize that and give them a very quick feedback, right? So they are excited about that too. So this is very clear, right? So I try to answer in the same day or the next day, as when possible, but a very quick feedback. So in the sense, I stop everything I'm doing, possible, and take a look in the manuscript and have a feedback for them, right? So that's it. Yeah.
How do you think the collaborators? How do you think the importance of collaborators in your output of production? And how do you manage all your collaborators?
Go ahead.
Do you have many, Celine?
Yes, probably more than I can remember. I mean, I have the close collaborators, the ones that are work on over the years for different kind of project. And I think it's very important when you find people that you like to work with and you are on the same page regarding how to run a project. I think it's important, to continue those collaborations. And of course, it's more efficient, more productive if you have some working collaboration to pursue them. But I don't know if I really how to really manage or if I do some specific stuff regarding the collaboration. I'm just trying to continue to work with the people that I like to work with. This is quite simple actually, and for the people that I don't like, or with whom it's quite difficult or annoying, I'm just stop working with them. I think I decided that at the very beginning of my PhD. It was maybe I had some bad experience, and from that I decided, okay, there are so many people with great talent, great ideas. I don't really need to work with people that will make my life more difficult. But I don't know.
I entirely agree. I entirely agree. It's a very personal stuff, right? I see. If I like the person and I feel good to work with them and I enjoy it, right? That's it. No, not very formal, but it's a very personal, emotional, let's say. It's a very emotional. If we're feeling okay and if we're making us happy and we're not, I never, nobody wants to have fights about collaboration. I'm quite easy about this, for example, in terms of authorship. I'm quite easy about authorship. I really don't care. And so I know this is a stressing point for many people, right? I don't care. And the point is to make our life easier in terms of improving our research and doing collaboration in terms of learning different things, or, well, I don't know how to do this. Let's say, I don't know how to do this kind of analysis. Let me ask somebody, or, oh, I want this kind of data. Oh, who has this kind of data and could share, and so we can talk about it. And if we have a personal feeling in terms of being a nice person, a person that you admire or that you like, and you have good conversation, then you go to a bar, right? And so all this, it's very personal. It's very, very personal and very emotional, and it's not to be stressful and a bad thing, right?
Okay, and I suppose it might happen to you to be a friend of your collaborators.
Sure. My best friend is my main collaborator, Bini. You know Bini, right? And Tiago Rangel, and we are all friends, right? We go to a bar, we go to a party, and we also collaborate, right? So that's the perfect situation, right?
Yeah, things are much easier when they are friends.
Much easier, sure.
Yeah, I agree. And also maybe to start collaboration at some point in my early career, when I was attending a conference, I was just screening the list of the people that were going to attend, see if there were people that I would like to, to work with, because I like their work. And I just sent an email before the conference to say, okay, I'm this PhD student, I work on that, I would like to discuss with you. And this was quite easy with very, famous people. They are quite busy, but if there are a conference, they are also there to meet people and meet students. So this also helped me to start collaboration with really great people. And like that, you can directly meet the person in person and feel if you want to work with them.
And how do you maintain this kind of collaboration, Celine, over time? I suppose not every collaborators will be your friends, but how do you entertain this collaboration over time? Do you get in touch frequently? Do you remind? Do you send a message? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I send some, message about, okay, I'm working on that. Maybe at some point you want to be involved because it's your line of research. These are too busy, so they would say no, but, I'm keep them updated about what I'm doing regularly. And also we meet in workshop on other stuff. And sometimes it's just, send a reference of said, okay, I think this could be of fine interest for you. Maybe you didn't see this paper, and that's it.
Great. Do we have any questions?
I have one more.
Go ahead.
Do you usually do more than one thing at a time? Like, do you multitask, or do you prefer to concentrate in one thing and just do it?
Well, I guess it really depends on the task. in some of the tasks we can, I would say we can do multitasking. I can, reply to email and discuss on a Zoom meeting, for example. But for writing or coding, I definitely cannot be multitasking. I think, my brain cannot, so I really need to be focused. But sometimes difficult because, the student asks you questions or you have some, I would say, notification and everything. So, but I guess your brain is training for that also at some point. So it gets easier to be multitasking, but you should avoid as much as you can to be more efficient.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that because of the collaborations that we discussed before, we always have different, for example, I always have different manuscripts to work on. So I have to decide which one I'm going to work because of the collaborations and the students. So it's, in this sense, it's a multitask. I do not have strong, lots of problem in just work with one thing in terms of focus, for example, for a research paper. Okay, I can go to different papers in different parts of the day, for example. No big deal, depending on demand, right? I always heard that women are more multitask than men, right? But I don't know. I heard everything. So, but for example, my colleague Tiago Rangel, it's very not multitask. It's one task, so he's quite focused. And when as long as he didn't finish that, he's not going to move to other things. So I think that it depends a lot. It's a more psychological stuff, right?
I'm a bit like this too. I'm afraid to move between projects so that I can focus more on one. Difficult to deal. Do you have any other question? Okay, Silvia, go ahead.
In this class, in this course, Murilo taught us how to use GitHub. And for me, for the first time I saw it, it was very complicated. But then maybe it can be a good tool for like saving steps. So I was wondering, how do you guys like save, keep old versions of a manuscript or project, or if you use GitHub for one project or something like that?
Well, for me, regarding the manuscript, I kept all the different versions, usually with a date and with my CB. And then if I made some changes, I just change the number and keep track on it. I think it's easiest for me to have all this kind of information. And for the script, I think indeed GitHub is quite difficult maybe to apprehend at the very beginning. But after that, it's really good for collaborative project. When I was working alone on a script, I didn't really use GitHub because I think it was not useful. I have my different version and maybe it was not good, but I have like old script and the final one, But for collaborative work, it's really easier to understand what have been the changes done by others, why, and to have a track of that. So, and with my student, I use GitHub quite a lot, actually. So yeah, and also it's not only to get an idea about what you have done when you go back to the work 6 months after you finish it, but also to ensure the reproducibility of the work. And this is a very important thing that we need to think about now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how to use GitHub. I never, well, we created one for the lab. One of my postdocs did it, but I never used it. So I just keep tracking of my own code and I sent him and he put theirs and I don't know. And then I don't know how to handle that anymore. So it's a bit confusing. But for my personal stuff, I don't use GitHub. And the only thing I have is a Dropbox, so it's not stressing to lose everything. But I just like Celine, I have all the versions, and I organize in folders, and okay, no big deal, no very rocket science about organization and all this. I don't know.
And you can manage or even files from your first project, José? You have all those files, all those stuff.
I don't know how long in the past I have these things, 10 or 12 years for most. I have some in my room, in my office. I have some very large box with folders in paper, in physical paper with things for my PhD, or I don't know, but it's 30 years old, so it's, I don't know, it's about, I keep tracking for, let's say, a bit more, I think 20 years, right? Yeah, about 20 years. I still have the papers and the manuscripts, and yeah. It's a window thing, I think, for us here, right? When start to use to have windows, and it's more standardized, right? So I have old versions and they still work. But I remember, for example, when we changed from DOS to Windows, it was very complicated because we couldn't read any of the files anymore. It was very complicated. But let's say 20 years, it's reasonable. Yeah. Sometimes I need to recover something from 20 years or so. Yeah.
It's challenging to keep track of all those apps and files.
Yeah.
And what about when using, do you use frequently cloud with collaborators? Which tool do you use frequently? It's just Google, and you put a document inside it, and if you have, I don't know, 15 collaborators within the same project, everyone is working on the same version?
Well, personally, I don't like to use Google stuff. So I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible. So for my own project, I try to use like it's a French stuff. So it's provided by the research minister. It's realizada, and it's open access, and it's like a Microsoft Office version that is like Google Drive, but really like in open access for researchers. And it could be accessible for foreign researchers, even if you're not from a French institution. So I'm trying to use that because it's science. I would like to prefer keep science and manuscript version and everything in some stuff that are not owned by private company. But I understand that sometimes you don't have other options, so you use that. But I'm trying, not to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like Google Docs, for example. I don't have good experience with them. When we have many collaborators, the strategy is, well, it's also try to, let's say I write the first version of manuscript, then I send everybody and I ask them to review it sequentially, right? It's easier. If not possible, we can merge the versions later. But I don't like Google Docs. I don't know. It's weird. There's something weird in my computer. I just had this experience a few days ago. For example, one of my collaborators in a paper with, let's say, 10 authors. One of them, oh, let's work with Google Docs and put the document in the Google Docs, and everybody went there and started doing the same things. Okay, I'm happy. When I downloaded the file, it was messy, and the tracking changes was not working very well. I have to do everything by hand, so it was not very good. I don't know what happened. Perhaps something in my window here, but I don't know. I always prefer to go more traditional, more orthodox, and send and file and ask them to review sequentially.
But I suppose you manage references in these documents. Which app do you use? Mendeley's, Zotero, or something like that?
I use Mendeley for me, at least.
I'm old-fashioned.
You go reference by hand?
I have my files and I'm going copy pasting. I don't know.
Of course.
I lose the window, opportunity windows to have all my papers on this kind of stuff. So it's old stuff. It's old-fashioned, right?
Okay. Do we have any question at the participants? And do you think anyone can answer? Do you think your method is working? Do you think you need to speed up something, or do you feel comfortable with the methods you develop?
Well, I guess it worked at some point, so I think it's good. But clearly, with a career stage, you always have more opportunities, more stuff to do, more people are asking you to, like for PhD jury, for example, I had 6 this year. And so it's always increasing. So it means that at some point, I always have to go back a little bit in my research and think about where I want to put my priority. Because if you're just in the routine, you're not thinking anymore, you're just accepting things to do, and you forget that you did research because of some reason, and you have to think about what was the reason. And sometimes, you accept things because you're supposed to accept it, but not because it's the reason that you did research. And I think it's important at some point to just remember why I'm doing research, what do I like doing, why do I like to do research, and maybe I should spend more time doing that than doing other stuff that are important for others or that are important for the career. But maybe if it's not what I like, maybe I should not do that too much. So yeah, so that's my answer.
Well, I don't know. I think it's okay. I think that the method is the one that you feel comfortable about, right? And for example, this reference manager stuff. Okay, sometimes I get a bit stressed and I think, oh, I should go to this kind of Mendeley or okay, no, don't worry, just stay for a while and then I can manage this in old fashion, right? So if you feel comfortable about the way you are working and if you are getting the results you want in terms of, let's say, productivity, that's okay. That's I think it's there's no recipe, right, about a standard way to do things. You must do the way you feel comfortable. But I think, of course, the new generations, they have different apps and they have different ways to think about and to use, let's say, cell phones. And my daughters do many things in the cell phone that I can't do, right? And so they write in different ways. So it's a generational stuff, right? Also, I think that's it. And you must feel comfortable, right, about how you're doing things. And I agree with Celine, this idea of making the priorities and say yes or say no, depending. We have it's very difficult for me, for example, to say no, right? So I'm still learning, and it's almost 30 years old. Say no, but it's difficult, right? So we are involved in so many things, and we have to stop at some point and to organize and prioritize the things to do, right?
And José, I once heard about a friend talking about his supervisor who was hyper productive, many papers per year. And my friend was saying his supervisor must stop his career to prepare all their methods again to improve even further their productivity. Do you think these tipping points, these moments of improvement, happen during your careers? Do you think they're still coming? And how do you deal with those moments when you feel stuck in a sense and need to revise all your procedures to speed up or to improve your outputs?
Personally, I never had this necessity to improve or to improve the strategy or the methods to increase the productivity. I think it's a more continuous or more natural stuff. What happened to me was to, for example, from time to time, I have to think what I'm going to do now, right? So I'm getting used and I'm not quite excited, let's say, about something. And I start to think about a new, let's say, research line or a new research avenue, right? I think these are my tipping points, right? So I get excited about a new idea. And so what happens is that we have, for example, I have a new idea. Okay, let me go into work with this new idea or new line. And then we have all the students that are working in the old line, and I'm not interested in that anymore. So that's the challenge, right? But these are the tipping points in terms of the research agenda, right? In a broader sense, we have a research agenda, let's say from 5 to 5 or 10 to 10, from 10 to 10 years. I have to rethink and okay, let's do this and let's do that. Well, I had a particular moment that was very, very interesting. In 2013, I was some way stuck in some macro stuff and comparative analysis and all the stuff. And then I went to the main administration of the university as a, I don't know how this works in France, but dean, graduate dean, right, for the Pró-Reitoria, the graduate student studies. And so it was a very breaking, right, because I'm from one day to the other, I started in the main administration of the university, taking care of all the graduate programs in the university, right? So I stopped research, of course, I had the students, I had the postdocs that kept working in the lab, but I was not focused on research anymore. I was not thinking about new ideas or new papers, just inertial stuff. And I stayed there for a year, 3 years, right? And then when I came back, it was one of these moments to rethink everything. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I have all this old stuff. And so I have this gap. For example, from time to time, I find a paper, a very nice paper that was published just in this period. And I never heard about this paper, right? So it is very interesting. From 2013 or 14 to 17, it's a black hole in my literature review, right? So, oh, I missed this paper. Oh, okay, it was published in 2016. Okay, makes sense, right? So that it was good. So it was a tipping point in terms of looking for other stuff. Right?
What about you, Celine? The birth of your child, or are you reaching a career tipping point where you must reorganize everything?
Well, reorganize, I hope not. But I'm trying to keep on track and trying to continue to train myself to new technique and to new coding and stuff because I like that first, and also because I think it's important for me. So I'm trying to find time during my year to subscribe to training and everything. But I'm not at this point that I have to rethink all over again. I'm more at the point that I don't have to rush, but I have plenty of stuff that I want to do, and I'm trying to continue working on everything. So I'm not at this point, but maybe at some point I'm going to be fed up with my working research, and I would like to do other stuff. But it should be fine because at least with a permanent position, you have the freedom to do that, and it's not in France. It's good because you don't have much pressure on that. So if you don't publish for a year or two and just trying to change of field or everything, it's like a good stuff. So.
And productivity is a theme, it's a subject that interested you. So do you read some books or some, especially some books to improve your techniques? Do you have some to share with us?
Yes. So I bring this book, The Effective Scientist. So this has been written by Cory Bradshaw, which is a very successful scientist in Australia. And maybe you know, but he have a blog which is Conservation Bites. Maybe you know this. And his book is really great. I read it when I was in a postdoc, and it really helps me to first to understand that I'm not the only one to struggle with everything. And also he have some good advice about prioritization in terms of your daily work and how to manage also collaboration, how to shape new scientists. And I think, to read this kind of book, but also I read also books about writing scientific papers. And from time to time, I'm just trying to read them again, but also to do some good presentation, how to convince people. And so this was more at the early career stage. And now I'm shifting a little bit, and I read a book about how to convince people about the biodiversity crisis, about climate change, how to fight complotist theory. So I'm continue learning how to better communicate as a scientist, but it's kind of different learnings than what I was doing before. But I think it's, well, at least for me, it helps me quite a lot, and I think it's important, to have different point of view, from different lab, different experience, because like that you have plenty of information to decide what works for you.
What about you, José? Do you have some advice on it?
Not specifically on organization, but when Celine was talking, I remember a very nice book that caused a very positive effect. It's the book by one of the CEOs of TED Talks, right? It's a very nice book, and it writes about how TED Talks was created and so on, but it's a book about rhetorics, right? It's about how to talk, how to convince people, how to give good talks. And so I think it's a very nice book for early careers to read, right? It's
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
Do you remember the name of this book?
I think it's TED Talks, like 17 minutes, something like that.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Good to know.
Let me look here.
While you are searching the title, do we have any questions at the participants? Arlene, are you hearing us?
It's the official guide for TED Talks or something like this. I'll send you by the.
Maybe I found it.
There's a Portuguese version here, but
TED Talks, the official TED guide to public speaking.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Sylvia. We do have 2 more questions. Yara, go ahead.
I'm wondering if you have social media, and if you do, how many hours do you spend a day in this kind of stuff?
I have Twitter, but that's it. I'm trying to, not to spend much time on other social platform. And regarding the time that I spend on it, it's very difficult to say, because I think it's every day. Maybe I go on Twitter like 10 times, 15 times per day, but for a few minutes. So I don't think I'm kind of an addict Twitter, but I go there quite a lot, and I think for me it's quite useful for papers, to see the papers that are out. It was also quite useful to get postdoc positions and adverts and this kind of stuff, and to know what are the main projects of the different labs and researchers, what are they doing for the moment. So
So you use it as a tool for your work?
Yes, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I have Instagram, but it's more personal. But I always use for work, and I'm not quite addicted. Also, I use it, but not very. I do not stay all the time looking at the.
But you are also very productive in your blog, isn't it, José?
Yeah, I'm in a bad moment about this, but I have I created the blog basically to go against Bolsonaro and all the stuff, right? And so I start to write all this, and it was very nice. But now I'm a bit freezed about this. I don't know. I don't know. I don't publish there for 6 months or so. I'm planning to go back. It was very nice, but I'm quite busy this last few months, so with administration and so on. But it was a very nice experience to write in a more popular way, more easy and free way, right? Not standard scientific stuff. So it was good, right? To make this popular science stuff, right?
Yeah. João?
Hello, I just wanted to ask Celine to repeat the name of the book, please. That I didn't.
The Effective Scientist, you mean? This one?
Thank you.
I found it here also.
Yeah.
I'm sending to Murilo so he can
Okay.
by WhatsApp.
Anyway, we are recording, and I will send everyone the link of this talk again.
I just sent you the 2 links, right, Murilo?
Okay, thank you. What else can you say? Do we have any other question? I had a few, but they are already mentioned. Does anyone want to?
I want to ask something to Celine.
Go ahead, please.
What about your experience as senior editor in Diverse and Distributions?
What about my experience? You mean in terms of productivity? If it decreased my productivity, or?
Yeah, how are you handling to be the senior editor?
Yeah. Well, actually, I was first an associate editor, so it was, a step, further. But and actually, it was at the beginning of my pregnancy that they asked me to be editor-in-chief, and I think I spent 2 or 3 months thinking about it, if it's a good idea, if it will not take too much work, if I will be able to handle it. So that was quite difficult, and at some point I just, I jump. I say, okay, let's see if it's working. At the beginning, it was very time-consuming because we receive a lot of papers, and it's not only the papers. You have to think about the strategy of the journal, to handle the authors, the editors, and think about the media attention about also the journal. So it's quite a lot of work. And at the beginning, I was not very organized at it. So it means that every day I would spend, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours working on that, which is very not efficient. And you should definitely avoid to do that. But with time, I started to become more efficient, more focused. So I decided that I will dedicate from specific days of the week my time to the journal, and it's more efficient now. I'm also more good at reviewing paper. It's much more easier now, and also, yeah, and it's good. Actually, I like it. It's a big responsibility. And also, you mentioned how the publishing and, open access and everything is an issue. And it also makes me realize, because I guess I was a little bit blind by the European system, that it's very difficult for other countries to publish in this sense, and that the system is unfair. And so I was trying to change also and to influence, you know, this is important because you're not just doing science because you like science, but you want also ethics science that is equal for all the countries. So in this way, being in a journal, it also helped me to not to have some power, but maybe to help a little bit with this pattern, and I think it's very important. And I don't know if you saw, but one of the major editor-in-chief of Journal of Biogeography just resigned 1 week ago.
Yeah,
because
I heard it, yeah.
Because of the open access, because of the Wiley pressure on editor-in-chief, and we are just discussing about that and thinking about what we are going to do about that with other editor-in-chief from other journals. And I think this is also very important to be implicated in this kind of stuff. And even if it takes time, I mean, if you have the feeling that you're changing stuff from the inside, is quite also good for you.
Great, great.
Let me just propose an exercise, Celine. I suppose you work more or less 80 hours per day. It results 40 hours per week. And of the whole 40 hours per week, how much do you expend doing administrative stuff, editor stuff, or your projects, or student projects, and so on? How do you divide your time, more or less, just to give us an idea of your weekend?
That's not nice, Murilo. That was my question.
I'm sorry.
I have to say it really depends also of the period of the year, because, you know, when you have master student, of course, you dedicate more time to do that. When you have to write some grant, you also spend more time to do that. But I would say that, for example, editorial duties is like maybe 4 or 5 hours per week, clearly. And I think administrative stuff related to the lab is probably a little bit more than that, which I try to avoid, but you know, it's difficult to avoid, especially because there are some issues that need to be addressed. And rest of the time, so it's like 20 hours, I would spend probably 10 on the project of the student. So reviewing their manuscript, discussing with them, and I would say that maybe I have less than 5 hours per week on my own project, which is, I would like that to be more, but I don't manage for the moment to dedicate more time to that.
What about you, José?
Well, we have at least, my teaching load, for example, is about 10 hours a week, right, on average, 9 hours a week or so. So I do not use lots of time for preparing, okay. But I would say that we have 9 to 10 hours a week in teaching, more, let's say, 4 or 5 hours one day in the administration, because I'm coordinating the graduate program, perhaps summing everything, and then the rest for doing research and supervising the students and so on, as we discussed. Yeah, about half time for part-time, half part-time for research and projects, and the other is university stuff, right?
Okay, and you.
I do not complain. I like teaching, right? So it's nice. No, people is always complaining about our 8, 9 hours a week teaching, right? But it's okay for me. No big deal.
Yeah, it's a nice way to get some students.
Yeah, we can recruit some students, some nice students. I always do this, right? I get the best students from my undergrads to the lab, so it's a nice opportunity, right?
And you have done some editorial stuff too, José Alexandre. What's your relationship with this editorial stuff in your time? How was when you were in the head of a journal?
Well, let me think. My first editorial experience was in Journal of Biogeography. Rob Whittaker invited me for as associated editor in 2005, I think. Then I stayed for almost 10 years in Global Ecology and Biogeography as one of the senior editors. Then when I went to the administration, to the main administration, I left. That was when David Curry was leaving also, and Brian McGill was getting over Gab. And I'm just associated editor, I'm associated editor in ecography. And we have the new Nature journal, NPG Biodiversity, that Joaquin Hortal is the editor-in-chief, and he invited me for the main board. So now I'm with ecography and NPG, Nature Portfolio Journal and Biodiversity. It's a new journal, just starting last year. I was editor-in-chief in our Brazilian journal, right? Now it's Perspective in Ecology and Conservation, Celine, but it was a very local journal that we rebuilt in our society here, and I was the first editor-in-chief. It was Natureza and Conservação, right? It started in 2012, and I stayed as the editor-in-chief for 3 years, and then we rotated, and now it's in Elsevier, and it's a big journal, right? It's a very nice journal. That was my experience. It's very nice. It's very important. It's very as Celine said, it's challenging. It's very hard, and it's very important to have a responsibility but it's very nice to help people and to discuss. And I had a very nice experience with Rob Whittaker. Rob Whittaker was just like an uncle or a father, and he was helping me to, oh, you should handle this way, and he was very kind with me, and so he taught me how to handle the papers when I started in Journal of Biogeography long ago. So it was a very nice. He's a very nice guy. And he helped me a lot in the beginning, right?
Was it time consuming?
Yeah, sure. In the beginning, as Celine said, then we get used to, and so we start to go easy with that. But it's a very nice, very nice experience, right? You'll be in touch with many people, and you'll be in touch with the frontier of your area, your research field, and you see new things coming up, and you can help to put them out. So it's great.
Great. And do we have any other questions at the participants? Well, no one is raising their hand. So I think we are going to the end of this talk. I would like to thank you a lot for all this talk. It was really enlightening to know your ways to deal with activities, your way to do science. It's a pleasure for me to listen all those answers, and I'm sure you greatly contribute to this course and to the main goal of this talk, which was to share your strategies and to say how it works for you. And I'm sure we all have our methods, and I definitely agree with you all. The best way for me is the way it works for me. Yeah, sure. And this is the goal of here, to show everyone has a different method, has a different strategy, and it's okay if you are not anxious and if you are not being sad or sick about it. It's okay. Go ahead and just publish. This is the most important thing, I guess. And so I leave you, first of all, Celine, for your final words, and then José Alexandre. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, thanks first, Murilo, for inviting me. I think it's really great to organize this kind of courses, and I will suggest to our doctoral school to do the same. So thanks for the inspiration. And yeah, I agree with what you said. I think the important thing is to know yourself, to know what works for you, what are your limitations, and build from that. And I think there is no really secret recipe about being a good researcher. It's just that if you feel good about yourself and happy with what you're doing, you're probably on the good track to be a good scientist.
Yeah, I agree too. Thank you, Murilo. It was a pleasure. And my main advice for the students is to have fun, right? This is everything about having fun, right? If you're not having fun, something is wrong, right? This is not only a job, right? In the bad sense, right? You must have fun, right?
Yeah.
Great. And thank you everyone for being here with us. And we already have 30 people here listening. It's great. And
fantastic.
Thank you very much a lot. And see you.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye.